Hey guys, we're in Phoenix, Arizona at Truno LLC with Mike. How's it going, Mike?
Good, good. How are you doing today?
Good. Mike, we're in a screen stretching room. We've not really shot any videos of screens being stretched in person. It's a job that I think a lot of screen printers don't realize. It's not exactly the most fun thing.
It's not very glamorous. No, it's definitely, it's one of those jobs, you know, it's a necessity. Having a good quality screen is super important when it comes to the screen printing process. And people kind of overlook that sometimes, what they expect out of a screen. And I think the proper education on a screen can really help improve the quality and the output, consistency, efficiency of your shop.
Well, it wasn't until I hired a well-experienced screen printer that he taught me all about the importance of tension and just so many little things that go into it. And there was a shop that was shutting down, and essentially I was gifted a screen frame stretching device. And it was way more difficult, and it's not exactly the easiest thing to make money from.
Yes.
But it's so important to get, you know, a very high quality, stretched properly screen. There's a lot of different mesh counts. There's
thread diameters. There's a lot of different variables you can kind of throw in there, and that's why the proper education of knowing what you need out of certain mesh counts, certain tensions, thread diameters. Having that education is super important, especially when you're trying to determine what kind of laydown that you want out of your screen.
Well, and it's often different for different manufacturers of mesh and so forth.
Absolutely,
so, you know, you get what you pay for, pretty much everything in life. But Saudi, I'm a big fan of Saudi.
Yes.
I use all their chemicals in my shop. We make a lot of videos with them at shows. They make great equipment, mesh.
They're fantastic.
I mean, they'll actually tell you we make mesh more than anything else. So again, the quality, very, very important.
Yes.
But what I like what you have going on here is you are not stretching multiple screens at once, because I do know, like, these are modular, right?
Yes, you can set them up however you desire.
You can stretch small screens, large screens, or multiple at a time,
on a table.
But there's going to be some cons to stretching multiple at a time, right?
Correct. Yes. So that's where we kind of have catered our screens to our customers and what our customers expect from us. Our customers are looking for tensions. They're looking for consistency in tensions. They're looking for consistency in the threads, and obviously durability, because they want these screens to last a long time. They want to keep cycling them through as much as possible while holding those tensions too. And like you said, when you start stretching multiple screens up at a time, yes, you can essentially stretch more screens in a shorter amount of time. However, what that starts causing is you're going to get inconsistent tensions throughout your screen. So when you have multi-up on a table, you're not consistently pulling from all four sides, as you can see on this stretching table here. My clamps are going all the way to the side here and all the way to the side there, all around four sides. So now when I'm pulling that the mesh across, I'm getting an even pull throughout the entire screen. So when I check my tensions, whatever tension the customer is requesting, let's say they want to get 25 newtons. They're going to have 25 here, 25 here, 25 here, etc., wherever they want to put that. You know.
Yeah, it doesn't do us much good to just have it in the center. It's the, what is it, the warp and the waft?
The way I kind of describe low tension is, you know, when you're laying down carpet and you get that ripple effect when you're pushing?
Yep.
The same thing happens when you're pushing that squeegee across the screen when you have those low tensions. It starts kind of creating a ripple, and it'll distort a little bit your image and obviously the positioning of where you're trying to line up.
Color alignment is so key to be using screens that are all in the same tension, you know, threshold.
Correct.
So, Mike, we start with a frame.
Yes.
That essentially, you know, it's used. It's an aluminum frame.
Correct.
Does anybody really use wood anymore?
Very little now. It's majority of the industry is aluminum frames. Yes.
So I can reuse it. I can use it in a dip tank, things like that. So we get a frame. We remove all that old ink and mesh that was potentially on it.
Correct.
We then grind it down. Looking forward to making that video with you, because guys, you need to get all of this glue, which we're about to show. You got to get that glue off, and you need kind of a porous, you know, way to have that new set of glue kind of get in there. So the grinder cleans it up, but then allows that glue to adhere. Because if it was super smooth, we'd have some kind of problems, wouldn't we?
Correct, yes. And to kind of expand upon the glue part a little bit about grinding it all the way down. So what we do is when we get a new customer in and we don't know what kind of glue is on there, We grind it down to basically where there's no glue left on there, and we're starting off with a fresh grind. But when we know there are screens and we keep them in rotation, and we know the same glue is going back on them that is on the frame now, we don't necessarily have to grind it down that aggressively. We can just kind of brush the top to give ourselves some sort of texture that we're trying to achieve there. And glue on top of glue is actually, that's okay. But you don't want to build up too many layers of glue on top of each other.
Because then, you don't have a nice...
And with the two-part epoxy, it's pretty user-friendly with that kind of stuff. When you start getting into the CA, you get people that have the habit of constantly building up that CA and not taking that off. But with the epoxy stuff, like I said, if you know you're using the same glue that you restretch with, for us at least, it's not necessary to grind all the way down to bare metal every single time. So we can show that later about how you can play with that.
So again, we have that, and I'm seeing as they're stretching, we have some of that red glue essentially. So over here,
correct.
It was all white, and then he brushed a glue around the whole portion. And one thing I don't see, I've not been in many shops stretching. What's the deal with the weights?
It's keeping the mesh nice and flat down on the frame on there. Our customers that we do, especially the one that he's doing right now, some of them get tensioned up pretty high. We're definitely pushing the limits on some of those. We're doing 27 to 30 newtons on some of those screens. So it's not necessary, it just makes their gluing process a little bit faster.
If you're too high of mesh tension, are we more susceptible to breaking the screen, ripping it, or anything like that?
So I'm glad you brought up too much tension. There is such a thing as too much tension too. It gets to a point to where you got to understand what works best for your shop. Some shops may not be set up to where they can handle those super high 27 Newton tensions. If you do have a shop that's really dialed in, everything's really put in place and you can handle those kind of tensions, great. But it's not always a benefit to a shop. It can create more problems if you don't know how to use it properly and understand how to be careful with more of a delicate screen. And at the same time, high tension, even if you are experienced with it, it's not always best for the application that you're doing it for. Because we're bottle printers as well at Truno, we do bottle printing. We actually run a loose screen because that allows us to get a little bit over the curvature of the bottle and any imperfections on such a hard surface. We actually go opposite. So we go low tension on our screens. So that's why it's kind of important to understand what you're trying to achieve with tensions and not just say, oh, high tensions, I got to get high tensions. Why do you need high tensions? So you got to understand the application and what you're using it for.
And so you mentioned like a two-part. So they throw the glue around, right? And it's not just drying, right? Or is it? I mean, I'm used to having to take an activator to it, and now that glue is like instantly cured. So
that's what's the CA glue. It's cyanoacrylate glue. That was very popular. I'm not saying shops don't use it. There's definitely a lot of shops that still use CA glue. It's just a very aggressive glue to be putting our employees.
You're going to smell it. Oh, for sure.
And when you're grinding off too, the fumes that it produces, that CA, it's just a brutal glue. The two-part epoxies have come a long way. So basically they pre-mix this into a container. And it only has so much of a shelf life too. They can't just mix a gallon of it and have it sit on the shelf. Because it has
that catalyst in there.
It starts curing. Exactly. So once they mix, they got to use it too. But there's less aggressive ones with longer shelf or pot life and lower pot life. Obviously, the longer the pot life, usually it's not as aggressive of a glue. But for the most part, if you have a lower, it doesn't last as long, you're going to basically be getting a stronger bond on there because it's a lot harder, a lot more aggressive of an adhesive as compared to a glue that has a longer pot life when you mix it. So really it depends on what you're comfortable working with. If you're looking to get into the restretching, working with these, there's SP5, there's Kiwu 1100, there's a lot of really good ones out there. It's just you got to play with which one you like working with the best too.
Cool. And how long is it going to take to dry? I mean, he just did this when we started the video.
Yeah, so we kind of keep a cycle going here. Basically, they try to keep their screens in cycle. He puts the glue on, and by the time he makes his way back around here, usually it's dry. So within about, depending on the humidity in the air, that plays a factor too.
Yeah,
because the water, that all absorbs.
We're in Phoenix. I mean, I bet the humidity.
I mean, it could be anywhere from, what, Luis, 10 to 15 minutes? Yeah.
Really cool. And again, we would describe these as static Stretch and glue is another way to call these types of frames.
That's
I mean, it's
correct.
just a little different than, I mean, this is what the majority of screen printers use. The other types is going to be like a Newman roller, a Sherlock,
Yep.
and that's you physically stretching it, and there's some pros to that.
There
but
is,
those
absolutely.
are expensive frames for sure, and I've had those pop more. So again, pretty common to me. Mesh count, the lower we go, the bigger the holes are.
Correct,
The
yep.
So if I'm going to be printing glitter or puff ink, I want a low mesh count.
More open, yes, correct. And even further on that, Saudi, they definitely, the research team is phenomenal. They've come up with a good product that a lot of our customers have actually switched over to for a lot of the mesh counts that they use. I'm sure you've heard of Hydro Mesh before.
Yep.
Yes. So Hydro Mesh, where that kind of bridges is, there's kind of an issue where if you're trying to lay down some detail on a t-shirt, but you're not quite getting enough coverage on ink, you can go to a Hydro Mesh, which is still going to maintain the detail, whatever mesh count that you're working with, but it's going to give you more ink flow as a lower mesh count. So if I'm working with a 200 Hydro, I'm going to get that detail that I'm getting out of a 200, but I'm going to get more ink flow as if I was running like a 180, maybe even a 160, depending how it's laying down, what squeegee you're using. But
And I know like Saudi does sell, so typically you're going to be white mesh under 160. I do know right around 160, Saudi would have both yellow and white. They're going to
Correct.
have different exposure times, guys. I mean, each one is a time and place.
Correct.
And then everything above that is pretty much yellow.
Yep.
And don't make the mistake I did when I first started. I was 20, and I was like, oh, higher mesh count, better quality.
Better
It has
detail.
Nothing to do. Oh, let's print some white ink through 305 mesh. Yeah. So,
like even on the bottle printing, we go as high as 460
Wow.
mesh. Yes, because you're dealing with such a hard surface and such fine detail.
Yeah.
You can go as high as 460.
well, it's just like anything in our industry. There's a time and place for each. There's different mesh counts. Make sure you use the right one. You can have everything correct on press. But if you don't make your screen properly, or if it was baggy, I highly suggest, one, if you're a screen print shop, you have to own a tension meter.
Correct. Yes.
And you need to be measuring your tension every so often on all your screens, both directions, long and short width, every corner. Make sure you're consistent and have a couple of those devices. Do we have one in the room?
Yes.
So-
Hey, tension meter.
You do need to calibrate them, guys. It doesn't do you any good
You
to
want a
have
tension meter?
a tension meter, but then have it not read the right tension. So it's really suggested, Mike, you have a couple of them,
Correct.
and you send them in to get calibrated.
Recalibrated. Yep.
And you always keep them in your box, nice and
Yes.
safe, and you
Do not store it like this. You don't want to store it up and down because that's going to start ruining your calibration. So
Yep.
there's a reason why that they have it stored.
And they always come with a piece of glass, too.
Yep. That's how you'll zero it out. So when you want to make sure because you calibrate it too, but when it gets to a certain point where you send it in and actually get it recalibrated from the manufacturer, but this is your nice flat surface that you use to zero it out with.
And it's very, again, they're not cheap. They're a couple $100 every bit of.
Yes.
But,
Yes.
I mean, they're very much so necessary in the shop itself. When it comes to these stretching devices, I mean, you're just using normal air compressor. Essentially, it's not that crazy amount of
Yeah, I mean it's
investment.
for us, especially because we're doing a lot of these one-ups. It works for us to kind of arrange these tables, and like I said, we work with smaller screens, so it gives us that ability to shrink our screen size, take out some stretchers. We used to have the old school one where it was the long bar. It sounds like the one that you first started with. It was basically a long bar, and you kind of lay your mesh in that bar.
Kind of, yeah. It was an AWT that was just,
Okay.
again, gifted to me during COVID, and it was very similar with having a lot of modular. But I'll tell you that this is not a job that every screen print shop wants to do themselves. I mean, we played with it for a second just because I got a free one. And
Yeah.
I quickly learned, you know what? I'd rather pay somebody like you guys who do it all day, every day,
Yep.
to get the job done well.
And at the end of the day, we're responsible for the screen that you receive. We have customers that reject them if they don't get them at the tension that they want.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because it wasn't until I got my own tension meter that was like, every time I buy screens, I'm going to double check that tension, and I'm going to call them out, because I think it's more common than people realize, and you need to let them know, hey, this is unacceptable. I mean, right from the start, we're not going to be in good shape.
There's a plus or minus, little
but deviation.
At the same time, you want 15 newtons, you get 15 newtons. You should be, whatever you're asking for is what you should get. So if you want to stretch your own screens, you start having your own variable of understanding how you're going to get those tensions. When you order them from a professional, you ask for certain tensions, that's what you're going to get.
Yep. Well, Mike, where can our viewers go to learn more about stretching screens, getting them stretched, buying a screen frame grinder to make this all more efficient?
Yes, so our stretching side is advancedcustomscreens.com. You can learn some more information about our company, kind of the history, and then some of the details and the services that we offer within the screens. We kind of get some specialty. Let's see if I have some here. We do permanent blockout borders on there. So there's different add-ons. So when you go onto the website.
So now I don't have to tape the screen every single time.
Correct. So there's certain things. You can do corner beads. We do silicone. It's really, we try to cater to the customer. We're not a shop that pumps out screens pre-stretched. Every shop has different desires. Every shop has different needs. So that's why we've kind of tailored ourselves to custom restretching. That's why our advanced custom screens. We custom stretch our screens tailored to your shop and what your shop needs.
And then also you have what? Screenframegrinder.com, where you...
Screenframegrinder.com, yes. And did he get a look at the machine already?
Yeah, we'll just show this last part, guys. So just what you haven't seen is cleaning the screen. It's the worst part of all this. It's kind of fun to just put glue and have it dry, but this is, check out our other video, guys, but you put your screens on here and it's going to go through and it's going to clean that frame up. And again, that's, if we just showed the stretching portion, that's fun.
It's not bad, yeah.
But you have to actually get that glue off to redo it again. It's
the worst part of the job. If coming from stretchers, we've been doing it since '97. We couldn't run our shop without it anymore. There's just no way I could even imagine us going back to hand grinding all the screens, because if the labor costs involved with it, plus it's a nasty job, sitting there hand grinding all day long. We've cleaned it. We've cleaned up the process by obviously keeping a hood on there. It kind of keeps some of the metal dust particles. There's a pan that catches underneath. And if you want to even take it a step further, there's an inlet on the back you can actually hook up a metal dust collector to.
And just suck those little particles out.
Yep, on the back you can hook up a metal dust collector. So depending where you're running it, if you're running it outside, probably doesn't concern you. But if you're running it indoors, you're going to want to hook up a metal dust collector, or else you're going to have metal dust all over the place.
Yeah, well, if you're in Phoenix, you can kind of do things outside, but where I am, in Ohio, it gets cold.
Yeah, you're going to, yep.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for teaching us about how to stretch screens. Guys, if you need them stretched, where do they go?
AdvancedCustomScreens.com.
And if you want to do it yourself and you want the ultimate tool to be able to do it, where do we go for the grinder?
ScreenFrameGrinder.com.
Guys, check it out. Mike's a great guy. Thank you so much for showing us your operation.
I appreciate your time and learning about our business today.
Thanks.